Hi, welcome. If you are aging, and who isn't, or you have aging parents, the Oldish is the place to be. Here we talk about everything aging, from stem to stern, every issue, nothing escapes us. So thank you for joining us today. Welcome to those of you who are our new viewers. For those of you who have been with us for a while, you may not be aware that this is our 1-year anniversary. Yep, this is show number 52. So we've been doing this for a whole year. Thank you for being with us. I'm most grateful. My name, by the way, is Karen Brown. I'm the publisher and editor of The Oldish, and I do hope that if you haven't already, you will like us on Facebook. And of course, you can follow us on all the other social media platforms as well, where we are at The Oldish. Today, we're going to talk about keeping seniors safe from the perspective of a caregiver. And this was prompted by a rather unfortunate occurrence the other day. Gilles Duceppe is a prominent politician in the province of Quebec in Canada. For those of you who don't live in Canada, Monsieur Duceppe was the leader of the Québécois party. He isn't any longer, but he remains a politician. His mother was 93 years old and living in a very exclusive seniors residence in Quebec. And sadly, she was found frozen to death outside of the seniors residence just before noon the other day in temperatures that reached -20 with a wind chill of -30 degrees Celsius. For those of you who measure in Fahrenheit, that is 22 degrees Fahrenheit. So very cold. There was a fire alarm at 4 a.m. and all the residents of the residence went outside. And when they came back in, she didn't. There is an investigation underway to find out what happened and why. For our purposes, that really doesn't matter, because for our purposes, this is a very tragic event that sparks a learning opportunity, or at the very least, a reminder of the need to keep our seniors safe. So older adults, whether they live in home care or facility care, doesn't really matter. They all need to be looked after and have some guidance. For those who don't have dementia, it's very easy to get confused when something like a fire alarm goes off. For those who live in facility care, you kind of assume that things are going on the way that they ought to go on. Clearly, there need to be procedures put in place and activated for those who live in facilities. Families can and should check on the existence of those procedures at the very next family council meeting. You want to know that they exist, that they are practiced, and that they're reviewed on at least an annual basis. So be aware of that. For home care, the issues are somewhat different, because older adults who live alone and older adults who have caregivers living with them require two different levels of surveillance, if you will. I always recommend planning for the worst case scenario and hoping it never happens, but you do need to know the worst case scenario. And of course, what happened to the mother of Gilles Duceppe is a worst case scenario. The biggest problem with aging seniors is wandering. Remember that people who are in early stages of dementia and still well enough to live by themselves may seem cognitively well a lot of the time. But there are times when they become unaware of exactly what they're doing and where they are in space and time. So, having them be out in a car or out wandering in a neighborhood, it can be very easy for them to become completely disoriented and start to go in directions that aren't toward home. So there are things that you can do. There's a lot of technology that can assist with people who wander. Currently, I'm checking out home assistants and I'm testing them, and I'll bring that review to you when it's done. There are still pieces coming to me which I'm integrating into the system that I have. I started with Amazon Alexa. Now, I chose that for two reasons, because Amazon and Google have two fairly competitive home assistant systems. I emailed both to ask about whether testing had been done with older adults, and Google didn't answer me back. Amazon answered me, and no, they haven't done any testing specifically with older adults. However, they are aware of the usefulness of their home assistants for that population. So I went with them because they answered me, but primarily because the Ring doorbell system is attached to the Amazon Alexa system. Now, I know for those of you who are techies, you're going to tell me that the Google Home Assistant does have an integration for the Ring doorbell. I know that. But I just thought, since I'm testing, to be fair, I'll get the components that are meant to work together seamlessly. So that's what I did. The doorbell is really interesting for aging seniors because for me, my initial thought was that if the doorbell rings, the senior can look on their app or look on their TV or their tablet, whatever it's hooked up to, and they can see who's at the door. And if it's a door-to-door salesperson, they don't have to bother with it. If it's somebody that they know, there is a two-way voice communication so that they can say to them, hang on, I'm coming. And they don't have to feel the need to rush to the door. That was a big winner for me. In light of this occurrence and the need for safety, it occurred to me also when I was thinking about this that the Ring doorbell, and I have the second generation, Ring doorbell 2, it does trigger when people walk toward the door. It also triggers when I go out the door. So it's just triggering based on motion. That could come in very handy if you've got seniors who might go outside the door and they shouldn't, or they begin to wander. You can tell that they're going out the door because it tells you on your app. If you're inside the house yourself, say you're a live-in caregiver, then the chime goes off and you can see which direction they're headed, which is abundantly helpful. There are, of course, lots of different kinds of door locks available to prevent people from getting out. Keys, different lock combinations, and deadbolts. Some of them are controlled by apps. You can use multiple locks, but the caution here is that what prevents them from getting out may prevent everybody from getting out should a fire occur. Just be aware of that. Plan for worst case scenario. Test it all, okay? Security systems can be set to sound if people are in the house and a door opens. So on my security system, it is armed away or armed stay. So if I arm it, arm stay, and anybody opens a door, there is an alarm that can go off. I think it takes 20 seconds and then you can trigger it. But it does tell me if doors are open as well. Even when the alarm is off, if I open the kitchen door, I can hear it telling me that there's a door open. So those can be very helpful as well. Personal devices on smartphones, in watches, and that can be sewn into clothing can be helpful. However, they're only good if the person is wearing it or carrying it. I think I saw one that was in a shoe as well. People do leave the home without shoes. And just be aware of all of that stuff. For older adults who live on their own, I highly recommend setting up a buddy system. Even if you're cognitively well, even if, falls happen, people get sick and they can't tell anybody. It's not just for wandering, but it is for general safety. If you have a neighbor across the road, have a chat with them. Even if they're not directly across the road, but you can see each other's houses. Have a little chat with them and set up a buddy system. Talk about when the drapes or the blinds are open in the morning and when they close at night. Keep an eye open to see what everybody's doing. That's not being a nosy neighbor. Not really. Phone calls at a regular time of day to check in with your older adult who lives alone can be a good idea. If they don't answer the phone, there could be a problem. You might want to go check on them. Security cameras outside the home work as well. Now, this Amazon Alexa system does have a security camera that works outside the house. I don't have that yet, but that's a piece I am going to get and add in Just want to get used to what I've got now, but those cameras do work for outside and they do trigger alarms when people come close. If the individual is still driving, and that can happen, somebody who maybe hasn't been diagnosed yet but can get forgetful, you might want to put a GPS system in their car. Now, I know a lot of the newer cars have built-in GPS systems. Not sure how they're all accessed. You may want to check that with the car dealership to just see how that is accessed by you. It's a bit like Big Brother. I'll grant you that. And I don't condone spying on people, but if you've got a legitimate concern about somebody, better safe than sorry. Now, again, they may go and get in their car and have their phone with them. If they don't have it charged up, that can be a problem. So, you just kind of need to think about all of these things. Maybe have a charger system that lives in the car so that if they don't know where they are, they can plug their phone in and still have access to the outside world. This is provided they remember how to use it, because confusion is confusion. When you go to the home to visit, keep an eye open for things like stacks of unopened mail, a heating system that doesn't seem to be working. Has a bill gone unpaid by accident, or is the furnace broken and they just don't quite understand how to deal with it? Because in the kind of temperatures we're having now, that can be a very legitimate health concern. Be aware if the individual is looking unkempt. It may signal a deterioration in their cognitive abilities. Look for food that's spoiled. Look for dirty clothes, unpleasant smells in the house. All of these kinds of things can signal a decline in cognitive ability. And being aware of that helps you get out in front of it. This is a person whose movements may need to be monitored for their own safety. If you're a caregiver for somebody who lives independently, or if you are a caregiver for somebody and you live in with them, the establishment of routines is very crucial to keep an eye on safety. If somebody isn't where they should be when they normally are, you need to check on them. Make sure that your phone number is on the refrigerator in big, bold print so that everybody knows who you are and how you can be located. That's pretty important. It's also important because the older adult who may need to access you may have some vision problems, and having that number there in big, bold letters that you point out to them every time you're there, here's my number, here's where you reach me if you need me, don't forget to call. That can be very helpful, okay? You need to support their independence, but you need to advocate for their safety as well. And we're big on advocacy here at the Oldish. Lastly, pay attention to your instincts. If it feels like something is wrong, if you get that little tingling in your mind telling you that things are not quite right, they probably aren't. And you should probably consider going and checking it out just to calm yourself and to make sure that everybody is okay. So that is it for today. Thank you for joining us. As I said at the beginning, we are here every Wednesday at 12 noon. Please mark it on your calendar and join us. Leave any comments down below and we'll be sure to get back to you to answer your questions or address your comments. In the meanwhile, as I said, if you haven't liked us on Facebook, please do hit that like button and do the same for our Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, wherever you like to hang out. We're hanging out there too. Until we see you again, please be well. Please take care of your aging seniors. And do remember that it takes a village to age a senior.